Happy Sunday morning, Steelers Nation. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Tyler Feldman, Upper St. Clair Panthers.
I'm Eddie Garcia, Monarch High School Marauders.
Ben Bobick, Steel Valley Ironman.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
That's right. Good morning. Here we go. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman, proudly born and raised in Pittsburgh. And joining us this morning, first on the West Coast, bright and early, Eddie Garcia, host of Locked On LA Kings. And he's also a huge Steelers fan. Eddie, what high school was that?
You've never heard of the Monarch High School Marauders? Come on. I mean,
my apologies.
My
apologies.
Yeah. Central California proud here.
Okay, love it. The Marauders. I love that too. That's got to be a sweet logo. I'm going to have to do some research after this. Ben Bobick, sports anchor in Chattanooga, Tennessee, born and raised in Pittsburgh as well. The pride of the Steel City. Ben, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Now, Marauders, it reminds me of my time in Florida.
That's right.
The
That's right.
Bradenton Marauders, baby. Used to go to a bunch of those games up there, single A and of the Buccos. So the spring training home with the Pirates. So that's I love that logo.
And if you're joining us, this won't be a Pirates podcast. We won't be talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates because we like to bring joy, happiness, maybe a little frustration, but not a whole lifetime of frustration. Hey, we're a week out, guys, from the Steelers kicking things off. This is the last Sunday without NFL football until mid-February. So the wait is almost over, but this is a Steelers team. Still a lot of questions going into this season. So let's have just a little Sunday conversation as our viewers, as Steelers Nation is waking up, enjoying that cup of coffee, maybe some scrambled eggs, some pancakes on this Sunday. Eddie, I'll start with you. What is your lingering biggest question for you as we're a week out from kickoff at East Rutherford?
Well, that is the question. I don't know. There's so many to choose from to start this season. Obviously, I'm very excited. The start of the NFL season is an exciting time for everybody. But I don't know if excitement is the first word I would choose when trying to figure out my feelings for week one in this season. It's probably curiosity. There's so many things I'm curious to see how we're going to work out and how players are going to fit. I'm probably, the obvious one, like so many people, is the quarterback position because this is a quarterback league. And, the Steelers have tried to see if they can, squeeze a little more life out of a veteran quarterback once again. Aaron Rodgers had his issues in New York, and to start the season against the Jets is certainly very interesting, and seeing the quarterback on the other side as well. What a week one matchup with Justin Fields. And it is, for me, it is about the quarterback, just because this league is such a quarterback league. If you don't have that guy who can make those special plays in key moments, you're not going to win in this league. So can they squeeze another great season out of Aaron Rodgers? Is that going to be enough? Clearly a future Hall of Famer. He's won a Super Bowl. We know all the accolades. That it's just, does he have that little bit extra in a new organization with so many new teammates? It could be a little bit slow to start, but to me, it's hard not to focus on that, obviously. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be the guy that can get the Steelers back to have playoff success?
And we've seen the Steelers post Ben Roethlisberger. They haven't really found that stable quarterback, and we've seen the result, a little bit of frustration over the last handful of seasons. Hey, Ben, we all know Mr. Rodgers' Neighborhood. If you're not familiar, that show taped in Pittsburgh. Mr. Rodgers from Pittsburgh, lived his whole life in Pittsburgh. Could this be the next generation of Mr. Rodgers' Neighborhood, a show that brings joy, happiness to the viewers? Can we expect that from Aaron Rodgers?
It's funny you say that. I'm kind of blocked in right here, but I did have a shirt. Now I'm not gonna be able to get it here in my dresser, but it literally is the Strip District in downtown Pittsburgh. When I was home this past summer, has the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood shirts.
Okay.
His face on it already. So they're ready to go, which is hilarious that you say that, because obviously the Strip District has those shirts and they're legendary. That was probably the first one they probably printed that shirt when the rumors began, just to have.
They're like, this is too easy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. It does write itself, but no, I think I like what Eddie touched on there about having a quarterback in this league. I think it's something that a lot of people choose to ignore sometimes. It's I always say it's not rocket science in the sense. It's obviously easier said than done to go and find that quarterback, but think about the teams that are consistently competing for Super Bowls. Chiefs, they have Mahomes. The Ravens, but they do have Lamar Jackson. The Bills with Josh Allen, the Eagles just won a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is obviously a great quarterback. I mean, the Bungles now, obviously have, Joe Burrow, even though their defense is kind of shot. But, and then obviously just looking, with us, I mean, we had Big Ben. We had the luxury of that for nearly 20 years. So it's not rocket science in that sense. But to our point here, Cannon and Rodgers maybe find the fountain of youth. I just think it's going to be, I just can't wrap my head around it not having some growing pains early on in the season. I mean, especially because they didn't, this unit didn't play all together in the preseason. Again, not expecting them to, not wanting them to, but you could only simulate so much in practice. And so I think we talk about it and we kind of sound like a broken record, but I think it's just because we've seen this story play out so many times before, is that defense is just going to have to carry them through these first couple of weeks until they hopefully find a bit of a rhythm, which that defense is equipped to do with all the bells and whistles they have on it. But you just have to trust in the fact that Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is a step up from the previous veteran quarterbacks we've tried. I think he has a little bit left in the tank. I think he's refreshed in this being his swan song, if you will. And I like what they have around them. I think he's going to make smart decisions with the football. He's not going to turn it over. And really, that's this era of Steelers football. But I think it's going to be some growing pains early on. But it may not be, I'm hoping at least, it's not as painful to watch in the sense, is this going to get better? I think you take solace knowing that, hey, it's Aaron Rodgers. Surely this is going to get better. This is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
My biggest concern with Aaron Rodgers, it's not his understanding of Arthur Smith's offense. It's not his health, that it seems like he's coming into this season much healthier than he has been the last couple of years. What in the tank does he have left? He's obviously an ultimate competitor, but how much drive will he have this season? There's a lot hanging on him being the guy offensively, and there's a lot of pressure on the defense. But I worry about Aaron Rodgers is that drive internally that he still has to not just compete, but also have that drive to make everyone around him better and have that drive to show up every single Sunday and every practice throughout the week, trying to get better and trying to improve the Steelers' offense. Because there's question marks at wide receiver. There's question marks with DK Metcalf and everyone underneath him. There's question marks at running back. There's question marks on the offensive line. To me, that puts so much pressure on the defense. So I worry about that drive that Aaron Rodgers has internally to still want to compete every single Sunday.
Yeah, I think it didn't work out great in New York. Obviously, he had a ton of success in Green Bay. So I do think he definitely still has something to prove. The Jets are obviously very much a dysfunctional organization. You don't think of that. Certainly when you think of the Steelers, you think of stability, especially you're looking at the head coaching position. Obviously, there's been a lot of turnover. When you look at a team, by the way, the only team in the NFL that is replacing its leading passing yardage leader, the rushing yardage leader, and the receiving yardage leader, nobody else is going through that. So, and it's very rare that something like that happens, but it's happened to the Steelers. He has to be that stability to start things off. And I agree with Ben. I do think not only do we have week one, not only do we have a lot of players who haven't played together, not much preseason action together. It could be ugly early on, right? It could, just because of guys trying to get some chemistry and learn things together. So I think we are going to lean on the defense early on. I think, the good news is you don't have a quarterback who is learning on the fly. I mean, literally, he's been there and done that in every situation at the highest level. But I do think he definitely still has something to prove. Like I said, it didn't go all that well in New York. He is it going to be a situation where, the end of his career, he fades off, and it's not like a Tom Brady like situation or something like that. So I spend, especially week one, going back to New York for him. I love that first, because Aaron Rodgers is a guy who he's cocky. He's got that a little bit of arrogance in him, and to want to go back to New York and kind of show him, yeah, this is the real Aaron Rodgers, not what you guys saw with this organization. I think that's a motivator for him for sure. So I like the way they're going to start, and I definitely think he has something to prove. So I'm excited about him kind of showing the world he still has something left.
Those poor Jets, if Aaron Rodgers just comes in and torches them for 4 touchdowns, 300 passing yards, I don't think that will happen. I think the Steelers will try to lean on that run game, but boy, that would be just classic Jets, those poor fans.
Yeah, you know what? It's one thing I'm glad Eddie mentioned though too is when it comes to someone learning on the fly when it comes to the offense, there's no training wheels necessary with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you think back just to last year, it seemed like those first couple games with Justin Fields, it kind of felt like they were, those training wheels were on. They wanted to set him up for success, maybe play to his strengths. Aaron Rodgers, there's no training wheels necessary, man. You open that playbook up, he could do it all and then some. So that might be a good thing, at least when it comes to those growing pains. But I mean, the one good thing about thinking about those early games and maybe having to do it ugly, that's the Steelers ball game, man. You don't have to worry about them winning ugly. They pride themselves in winning, 18 to 11 somehow with 6 Boswell field goals. And it's like, hey, if that's how it needs to be done, that's how it needs to be done until this team gets going. But I just think that's the one thing I think that does kind of keep me optimistic is there's no training wheels necessary with this offense and with Aaron Rodgers. But to that point, the chemistry is, I think, the thing we're all worried about, and just having those reps in game action, which will be interesting. But yeah, I agree with the Aaron Rodgers. He does have that, and that's why you love him though. He's the ultimate competitor, and with that cockiness, that swag about him to want to go in there to New York. And you think back when he told the story on the Jets told him they were getting rid of him. He thinks about that. That's a motivator for him. To Eddie's point, so I'm excited to see what he pulls off in New York.
I am as well. It's still hard for me to visualize Aaron Rodgers in a Steelers uniform. I'm still like
I stare at the picture. I'm like
10, 15 years ago. I mean, even 5 years ago, I would have said you're crazy. That'll never happen. And here we are. It is a weird state of Steelers football as they go through trying to figure out that quarterback position. But who knows? Maybe Aaron Rodgers could give the Steelers 2, 3. I don't know. What do you think is best case scenario here for Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking the Steelers?
Well, best case scenario is he comes in and leads us to a very deep, playoff run. I would be surprised if we get more than 2 seasons out of Aaron Rodgers, honestly. It's I understand why they did what they did, and I'm very curious. I'll use the curious word again to see exactly, how he's going to fit in there. And, under the circumstances, I think this was probably the best fit for the Steelers, but I'm still waiting for them, obviously, to find that next quarterback in the draft and have the guy that we can, build around and have him be the future of the franchise for many years to come. That's obviously not Aaron Rodgers. This is, and many people have talked about it. We're going for it this year, and we'll see how it turns out, because if it doesn't work out, I don't know what's going to happen here in the next few years. But I think best case scenario is he still has some magic, and we can get maybe 2 years out of him and then find the next young guy ready to take over through the draft at some point. But I'm what the plan that's been going on for the last few years certainly hasn't been there. We haven't had the success we wanted, but I'm again optimistic that it can happen for a year or two. But then the long-term solution has still not been answered yet.
Best case scenario, he helps the Steelers win a Super Bowl, right, Ben?
Yeah. I mean, that you want that lightning in a bottle, but yeah, I'm one of those people that are hopelessly optimistic. He goes on and says, "Yeah, this is probably it," and so everyone's saying, "Oh, it's his last year." I think that's him just kind of just covering his own tracks. Where if like things kind of go a little in the middle of the ground this year, it's like, "Hey, I gave it one last run. I go out with my head held high." But there's obviously that chance where, hey, maybe we do have a good season. Maybe we do win a playoff game or two. And he thinks, hey, we could really do it with this team. And he finds that edge and that fire to maybe go after one more. But yeah, I mean, that's what this team is built for, is going after and finding the lightning in the bottle and trying to win a Super Bowl. But I do think that this is obviously, not obviously, but you would hope that this sets up for them to address the quarterback position in the draft, especially with the amount of draft picks that they have going into next season. And it sort of kind of just the story sort of writes itself when it comes to all these draft picks and the draft being in Pittsburgh next spring, potentially drafting hopefully the next guy if it works out that way. But I'm certainly not writing off 2 years of Aaron Rodgers. I do think that everything up to this point has been optimistic. Everything's been solid. Of course, we haven't played a game yet. So once we get in the kitchen, things get hot. We'll see how people react and respond. But I do think 2 years probably max, if that. And you know what? I think best case scenario on top of that is obviously competing for a Super Bowl this year is it. But also, say we do get a quarterback in the draft next year and Aaron Rodgers does decide to stick around for another year. Wouldn't hate that guy, getting a year under his belt under a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and you don't have to thrust him into action like we did our last first-round draft pick at quarterback.
See, that scares me a little bit. It reminds me of when Ben Roethlisberger had all those guys, not a ton, but enough where you thought that would maybe happen, but Ben still wanted to compete and play. Yeah. And I feel like Aaron has that same energy inside of him. So who knows? We've talked to Aaron Rodgers. What about Aaron Rodgers' neighborhood? What about the rest of the pieces, his weapons? We'll be talking about that next right here on this Sunday morning edition of the Steelers Squad Show. But first, for all you guys out there, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiette Ready. Rugiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiette has a 3-in-1 formula that dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked for you, Rugiette may be the answer. More than 150,000 men have already made the switch, and you can too. You can even read the real customer reviews on their site, which is helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiette.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. Again, that is Rugiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiette website for full safety information. All right, back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show, proudly airing right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is Sunday morning. You are waking up with us, Eddie Garcia on the West Coast. It is early for Eddie. We're glad he's here. And Ben Bobick in Tennessee. We are 7 days away from the Steelers kicking off their 2025 season on the road against the New York Jets. It'll be Aaron Rodgers, like we talked about earlier in this show, against his former team, the New York Jets. I'm looking forward to seeing him run out of the tunnel like he did that one moment in time that we remember Aaron Rodgers being on the Jets. It's unfortunate, but that's what I picture. He'll be doing that in black and gold, though, this time around. We've got to talk about the weapons that he does have on the outside in the backfield, tight end position too. Who is a key player on this offense that maybe is an obvious key player or someone who maybe is flying under the radar right now, who will be instrumental in helping Aaron Rodgers right this offensive ship and try to give the Steelers defense more than what maybe a lot of Steelers fans are expecting right now?
Well, I mean, I think you have to start with DK Metcalf, a guy who we've seen be a game breaker. Another new face, though. I'm not worried about him certainly being able to come in and make some big plays. We'll have to have the chemistry develop on the fly a little bit between him and Aaron Rodgers. But, the receiving core is, other than DK Metcalf, a question mark. Who's going to step up? And I'm talking about the wide receiver position because I do like our tight ends a lot. But, Calvin Austin III, is he ready to, be more of a impact type player? Is he ready for that spotlight? There's, DK Metcalf will probably see a lot of double teams this year and get the lion's share of attention. So somebody else is going to have opportunities to step up for sure. But I think Metcalf is, a great fill-in at number one, proven guy. It's another guy with something to prove as well. I think he's excited to be in a situation he's in with a future Hall of Fame quarterback. So he's the number one guy that I think is going to be, a reliable big play wide receiver, but there's going to have to be other guys that can step up. I am, a little bit concerned about the running back position a little bit. I do like Jaylen Warren a lot. The effort and the way he runs the football is exciting. But he's never been a feature back in the NFL before. He's never been a guy who's going to, get most of the carries. So can he handle that workload? And how much of that workload is he going to get? With Caleb Johnson coming in, you've got a rookie running back who is going to need to also share the load. Is he going to be ready for NFL football? So the backfield is certainly a question mark. I love our tight ends, though. I'm a tight end guy. I wish I could go to tight end university. I love that position. And, we'll see Jonnu Smith coming in, history with, our offensive coordinator. Pat Freiermuth obviously is going to be a guy I think that Aaron Rodgers will rely on a lot. Hopefully Darnell Washington can just step up a little bit, and even, Connor Hayward doing his thing as well. I love that tight end group. I think they're, maybe not big play guys, but guys that can move chains. And I expect the tight end position to be featured quite a bit, especially early on when you're, doing those short passing game and kind of figuring things out with your quarterback. So, DK Metcalf, though, is the guy I feel the most confident about, and clearly is the guy that I think Aaron Rodgers will be looking to lean on early on.
And with DK Metcalf at that wide receiver one position, I think for the first time in, who knows, a decade, the Steelers actually have a wide receiver one who doesn't have all this noise around him. The noise around DK is just that he's an athletic freak, very talented at that position, but it doesn't seem like there's ever been that off the field or I'm that guy and I deserve that attention type of receiver energy that the Steelers have dealt with over the last handful of years. I think that bodes well for the Steelers offense and for Aaron Rodgers. Ben, who are you looking at on that offensive side of the ball? Which weapon are you salivating over as we're a week out from game one?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Eddie in the sense that he mentioned he loves tight ends, and you could call me a homer with my shirt. I'm kind of tipping my hand here, but it's got to be Pat Freiermuth, man. I mean, it's got to be. That's a Penn
State shirt. It's red. Come on.
Yeah, right. My Sunday red outlook.
That's right.
The tip of the cap, the Tiger.
All right, Tiger.
But I think it's got to be Muth, man. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Jonnu Smith coming in, knowing the offense, and I just think we know what this guy is capable of when it comes to pass catching, and I just think he's going to be reliable for Aaron Rodgers, like Eddie said, and I just really think they're going to unlock what makes him so great, what made him a second-round draft pick, out of Penn State. I just think he's really going to thrive in this offense, and I think with DK Metcalf having a bona fide one opens up things a little bit more, and that's where I think having Aaron Rodgers, an experienced quarterback in there, you have to have a bona fide one wide receiver, but he also knows how to spread the love, if you will. That's where I like to think in my head, where like maybe not having that bona fide number two is okay because you have just a great distributor of the football in Aaron Rodgers. As long as you got a guy like you do in DK Metcalf, he could spread that love out there. But I just think Muth is going to be his safety blanket. I think they're going to set him up when it comes to matchup nightmares. Everyone mentions DK Metcalf on the outside. They'll mention Jonnu Smith. They'll even mention Darnell Washington when it comes to the red zone, right? I just think that opens up the rest of the offense. And if you're telling me, you got an inside linebacker or someone on Pat Freiermuth, I'm going to trust that he's going to get open, because he's elusive out in the open field running routes. And I just think we've been missing that intermediate passing game for the last few years, finding guys over the middle and that sort of thing. And that's his game, man. Like he finds those soft pockets. He knows he's in the right spot. He's going to catch the ball. And I just think, along with just being that safety blanket, I just think he's going to be opened up for so much more. So I do think 88 is going to have a career year this year with this offense, just because with a like you mentioned, it's the first time in a while we had a bona fide number one receiver, another Hall of Fame quarterback. Obviously, the last one he had was, well, with the exception of Russell Wilson, Big Ben. And that was one of his best seasons he's had in the league. But yeah, I think Muth is a key to this, because I think he could play the part of that number two, not be the number two receiver, but have maybe number two receiver numbers in games when you need them.
Maybe like a Heath Miller.
Wow, there's a name, Wow,
we haven't really. Heath deserves his flowers, but
yeah, he does.
That piece within that Ben Roethlisberger-led offense,
yes,
was special. It was special,
mm-hmm.
and it was special. Okay, good memories. This offense, despite not having a ton of, Ben, to use your word, bona fide stars all over the place, weapons-wise, does seem like there's a little bit of balance. How do the Steelers, though, with this Arthur Smith offense? First, let's start there, first of all. What do we think of Arthur Smith so far? What are the expectations for him in this role with the Steelers? Eddie, I'll start with you.
I compared to some of the OCs we've had in recent years, I feel pretty good about Arthur Smith. Yeah. I mean, he's well-traveled, a guy who's had, some head coaching experience, so he kind of brings that perspective as well. Someone who is very comfortable, I'm sure, working with a veteran quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, but it's kind of controlled passing game. Maybe it's not the most creative offense in the world, but that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with Steeler football. I know with him, obviously, we were able to kind of reestablish the running game, which for a few years there was a real struggle to get any consistency out of. So I'm on board with Arthur Smith. I think he's done a pretty good job. Like I said, I think he's got that short passing game, mixing in the running game as well. We'll see, what he can do with a quarterback who can, certainly in his prime, could unload it with the best of them as far as the deep passing. But, I do hope we talked about the tight ends. I do hope we see a more of a focus on, utilizing the entire field. I don't know that has been a strength of the Steelers offense and the play calling, recently. But with that group of tight ends that we talked about, let's make those defenses have to defend every area of the field, not just the sidelines, not just down the field, but concentrate on getting some chunk yardage in the middle of the field and, move those chains and have that supplement the running game as well. So just, again, try and make the defense be honest and not make it easy on them by those guys not having to defend all areas of the field.
I am cautiously optimistic about this Arthur Smith-led offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a seasoned coach in the NFL. My concern is how much seasoning we'll actually see in this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. The pieces are there, but I think one of the bigger concerns with Arthur Smith when talking about what he likes to strategize, kind of boring. Where's the seasoning? Can we throw some salt, some pepper? Can we get, I don't know, your dad's favorite seasoning that he likes to throw on that steak? I don't know how frequently, at least early on, we'll see that. My expectation is develop the run game, have Aaron Rodgers, a lot of checkdowns, a lot of running backs receiving the ball in the flat, a lot of quick slants. That's how I expect this offense to start. Maybe they get a rhythm. Ben, what do you see happening with this Arthur Smith-led offense?
Yeah, you actually teed it up for me there with the pass catching running backs. I think that's one thing that we're heavy in this year when it comes to just Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. I see a lot of reports from camp of Kenny G lining up outside as a wide receiver. Why not? I mean, he was great in that. I mean, that sort of was his game in Philadelphia. When Saquon Barkley would need a break, they'd bring him in. And I mentioned it on the last show about him making the most of his opportunities behind a guy like Saquon Barkley, who had obviously a career year last year. I mean, that's why you bring this guy in to make those plays, those pass catching running backs, those quick slants and stuff like that. Eddie mentioned it, the intermediate pass game, just coming back into it, finding the middle of the field. Just the one thing that just drove me up a wall last year, and it was like a square peg in a round hole, was that running back toss play that they just continued to run where it was behind that inexperienced offensive line. And it was we're losing 2-3 yards on it. And I'm screaming at the TV, we don't have Derrick Henry like they had when he was in Tennessee. Derrick Henry's a different beat. You get that guy out wide running downhill. Yeah, you're going to get a couple chunk yards out of him because who's going to stop him? But, they're trying to run it with Naj, and Naj was all over the place. Obviously his Steelers career is one that we're going to look back on, I know, in a few years, and with it, I'm interested to see how people think on him when all the dust is settled when he leaves. But it just no one. And Jaylen Warren was a little better at it because he just a north-south Bill Cowher type of guy, just run downhill. But that's just one play that I would love to not see in 2025. Oh gosh.
We may have to start a new segment, call it Benny B Goes Ballistic, and whatever is grinding your gears, Ben, we might have to, just give you some space to hash it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you were trying to stay. This is an offense that needs to stay, as they say, on schedule, if you will. At least the last year they needed to, and we're running these toss plays. Next, it's 2nd and 12. Well, now we're behind the sticks. Now, Russell Wilson's chucking one up to George Pickens to see if he runs. It was just maddening. So, to your point, Tyler, just a little extra seasoning, man. Reach in the back of the cupboard and maybe be a little adaptable. Maybe is another word we could use. Be a little adaptable with what you have now in your arsenal, and switch things up. And I was reading some stuff that kind of touched on that. And Arthur Smith just saying, like, hey, I would be silly not to adapt and realize when I've changed some things and see what will work, and kind of apply it to Aaron Rodgers games or Aaron Rodgers play and how he plays the game, because you just can't stick to the same old stuff because it's the same old stuff.
To have all this new seasoning, the Steelers will have to rely on this offensive line, and we will dissect the Steelers offensive line coming up next here on the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But first, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you, the listener, the viewer. We've put together a survey to learn more about all of you in order to make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you for helping us out. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Look, I like Josh Allen. Sorry, Steelers Nation. Crown your champion in August. I like the Buffalo Bills. I think this is their year. Or parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Eddie Garcia, Ben Bobick. Hey, it's early. It's not that early, but it's early enough. A Sunday morning, a little Sunday sit-down conversation with two of my favorite Steeler fans. We've talked about Aaron Rodgers. We've talked about his weapons. The Steelers 1 week out from their first game of the season in East Rutherford at MetLife Stadium against the Jets. We've got to talk about this offensive line because in the NFL, you've got to be able to handle the trenches. We don't want to be offensive here, okay, during this segment, but we've got to dissect what it will take and which players, which linemen to look out for to protect Aaron Rodgers, to give the running back space, because there is not a lot of time in the NFL based on how some of these defensive fronts look across the league. Eddie, I'll start with you. What is your biggest excitement? Let's go with biggest excitement first regarding the Steelers offensive line.
Well, I mean, I feel confident in the interior offensive line. It's about the tackles. And you've got two talented but young offensive tackles that are going to be protecting Aaron Rodgers, keeping him upright as much as possible. Broderick Jones now, going into his third year, I think it's time, right? It's time for him to step up and show that he was worthy of the draft pick and to be that cornerstone offensive tackle that every team really needs. For Troy Fautanu, I mean, we losing your rookie season, basically playing only the one game. I like him. I'm confident in him. I think both these guys are very talented. I think they can both develop into being very good offensive tackles at the NFL level. It's just that they don't have the reps. They don't have the experience. They need to learn on the fly. Getting a book on the edge rushers around the NFL, and obviously in particular the AFC North, being able to go against those types of guys and figuring out, what I can do and what I can't do. So I think it's a talented offensive line. It's just a little bit green in those two positions. So I have confidence in their talent. I think they've got the ability, but it's just getting the experience and learning and things that only you can, develop through playing. And so that's how it's going to have to be for those two guys. They're in the spotlight. Those positions are very important. So I'm confident the interior offensive line is fine, but there could be some growing pains. And when it's an offensive tackle, you hold your breath that it's not a situation where somebody gets, a clean shot on your quarterback, because, with Aaron Rodgers, look, he can get the ball out quickly. He can recognize things quickly. So there's that. I don't have to worry about that. But, the talent is there. I think the ability is there, but the experience isn't. And that can only come with them getting reps. And so I'm confident that they can do it, but I am also expecting there to be some moments, right, where they're going to be learning on the job. So hopefully when those instances happen, it doesn't result in any kind of a game-changing type play or any kind of an injury or something like that, because that can occur when you have tackles who get beat off the edge.
And getting beat off the edge, look, you look at some of these edge rushers, not just in the NFL, but in the AFC North. The Steelers, this is not an easy job. And then you add to that, Aaron Rodgers is not young either. So protecting Aaron Rodgers is number one on my what the Steelers need to do to maintain offensive consistency. Ben, how do these offensive linemen fare early on? And how does communication with Aaron Rodgers and the way his mind works, how critical has that been probably throughout the summer in camp and the preseason, even though Aaron really hasn't played?
Yeah, I mean, this is make or break, I think, for a guy like Broderick Jones. I mean, it is year 3 for him. You're switching him back to his natural position, if you will. And even if you just rewind the tape on a guy like this, as people are quick to say that, you got to think about what they drafted. I mean, this is a guy that only started 19 games in college for the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, granted, he played for the Georgia teams that won back-to-back national championships that were dominant. They drafted this guy basically off of not raw talent, but of the talent he has and how young he was. But he didn't really start that many college games. You bring him into the NFL, and obviously he was thrown into the deep end of the pool a little bit on the right side, which wasn't his natural position. And basically what I'm saying is maybe we use a little bit of grace there. But to that point, it is year 3. He was a first-round draft pick, and now we're shifting him back to the left side, and we're relying on him to be the guy we drafted. But I'm interested to see how much, if anything, he takes from his play on the right side of the line and can use that experience on the left. Is it okay? I have an idea of how these guys work. I know how NFL speed is now, obviously, with 2 years in the league. You think about, okay, is it natural to me when it comes to the footwork and knowing where I have to be and knowing what it feels like. I think might be refreshing for him. And I do think, but I just think with him, the grace period is probably over, but at least when it comes to evaluating his first 2 years, guy didn't start that much in college, and he was thrust in a big time role here with the Steelers and the revolving door that was the quarterback room for the first 2 years. But Troy Fautano is an interesting one. It's such a silent confidence with him for a guy that barely played at all last year, pretty much missed his whole rookie season, and no one's really concerned about it. They're that much confidence in what he's shown and what he's able to do. And so I think that is which is I'm really excited to see him play on that right side for that aspect of it, because it just seems like there's not much concern or anything when it comes to that side, which I'm not saying there should be, but just for a guy it's pretty much, you could say, is a rookie with an asterisk, just because it's a second year, just because he didn't play much football last year. But I do think the fun ones to keep an eye on are Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick. I mean, two guys that played a lot of football last year. Want to try to avoid that sophomore slump. We hear sophomore slump a lot with skill positions with the quarterback, the quarterback room. I mean, we heard it back when Big Ben was playing. We heard it last year with C.J. Stroud. We're probably hearing it a little bit this year with Jaden Daniels. Well, what about some of these linemen, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, that we're relying heavily on them, these draft picks that are very young in their own right, only in their second year. So I think cohesion is a big thing that's going to have to, obviously, with every offensive line needs to happen. But, the tackles are obviously the driving force. Pivotal year for Broderick Jones. But I do think the safety blanket, if you will, is that fact that Aaron Rodgers is smart with the football, knows how to get it out quick, knows where to look, and that can mask maybe some early issues as they get it going.
We've talked a lot about we've talked a lot. Go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead, Eddie.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's something that's not very sexy and maybe that fans don't think about, but having a veteran quarterback who recognizes the defense, who's going to check to certain protections because he's seen everything and knows what's going on, to put those offensive linemen in a position to succeed. Again, may not think about that kind of thing, but that's something that's incredibly important, right? That he's going to get to the line, he'll recognize the defense, check to a different protection to make sure those guys are in a position where they're not going to be in a vulnerable spot. So that's, something that might not think about, pre-snap, but that's something that can be just as important as anything. And I think something about Aaron Rodgers, that's going to be more often than not the right thing.
And then you've got Isaac Seumalo at left guard. He's the veteran presence. So you look at left tackle, Broderick Jones. You look at center, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, right guard, right tackle, Troy Fautanu. Young, but you've got Seumalo at that left guard position. You've got a veteran quarterback, and it's a young man's league. So for me, you thrive off that youth. You thrive off that drive that these guys have going into this season. Can you imagine the pressure that these guys feel and the obligation to protect a Hall of Fame quarterback? These guys probably are saying to themselves, we've got to protect Aaron Rodgers. That is our one job. That's been the focus. How are they going to do that? Again, I go back to this. My biggest concern, divisional football, the three teams they're going up against have some pretty stout defensive fronts, and that will be the challenge, because as the season goes deeper, as the weather gets colder, Aaron Rodgers, he's older, and so that colder weather has a different sort of impact. Some of the things he maybe could do 5-6 years ago, maybe he can't do anymore. And so protecting Aaron Rodgers is number one on my what the Steelers need to do list to have any sort of chance to not just be a playoff team, but to actually win a playoff game. And I am cautiously optimistic about this offensive line. They'll have to figure it out. They just need to, because if not, this Steelers team is in trouble.
I mean, it's a young group, but it's a talented group. I'm optimistic about them as well. I really feel like, it's something we don't talk about a lot as football fans, because it's, fantasy football and all that. But the cohesion of a group of offensive linemen hopefully good health so that they can also stay on the field together as a unit as much as possible and develop that chemistry. It's something that you don't talk a lot about, but it's really important. So hopefully this group again can stay together. I like the talent. I think the ability is there. It's just getting together as a group, maintaining, that 5-man unit as much as possible and figuring it out together. I think that they're good enough to get the job done, but it's just getting that experience and getting together as a unit. So hopefully, again, good health and develop that chemistry.
Speaking of fantasy football, shocked that there is no offensive lineman type of option yet. Hey, pancake block, give me something. I think there's a hunger for that. Eddie, we might have to get together after this and work on this business that we could start. Fantasy football plus OL.
That's for your deep fantasy players there. I'm sure our guy Wayne Gandy would be all in favor of that, right? Any more attention we can give to the big, beautiful guys up front, he'll be all in favor of that.
Wayne Gandy, not here with us today. He's at a wedding. Chris Carter, a deservedly so day off, and it is Eddie, Ben, and myself. We're so glad you're with us here on this Sunday morning. We've got one more segment to get to when we come back. How about our way too early week 1 predictions for this Steelers-Jets game? That's next right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But first, speaking of fantasy, this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Yes, you can. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. And if you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league, Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew, no problem. Join a public league, the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off again September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Back here on the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network, Ben Bobick, Eddie Garcia. I'm Tyler Feldman. So glad you're waking up with us here on this Sunday morning, whether you're on the West Coast, in the Central Time Zone, in the Eastern Time Zone, in the Global Time Zone. You're in our time and our zone, and we are in the zone. And we're talking way too early game predictions. Last Sunday without NFL football, guys, until mid-February, which has me fired up. It was great having college football on yesterday. Little Penn State win. I saw the Bulldogs, the Fresno State Bulldogs got a big dub. I mean, everyone was staying up late on the East Coast to see that one, Eddie.
Yes.
Very exciting for Fresno State.
Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. What about this Steelers game, though? Right now, Steelers favored by 2.5. The over-under as of today is 38.5. I like the Steelers on the road. It's the Jets. The Jets are just going to jet, I assume. Let's go with score predictions first, guys. Eddie, I'll start with you. How do you see this one playing out and why?
Well, look, again, first game of the season, not a lot of preseason reps for the ones. I would expect it to be low scoring. I would take the under in this game. Chris Boswell, I'm sure will have his typical solid game. I think the Steelers will cover. I'm looking at, 23-10, 23-13 type of a score. I think Pittsburgh is the better team. The Jets have a ton of question marks, and as you say, this organization has been and is currently in a difficult situation. They always seem to find a way to not get the job done. Justin Fields certainly is going to be interesting for them, but I think
hilarious.
Come on, I mean, look, we know what he brings to the table is a great athlete, but he has his limitations. So, knowing what he can and can't do well, I think bodes well for the Steelers defense, and game planning for him and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it will have its moments where you're like, oh, it's the first game of the year. Oh, it's a quarterback who hasn't had any, live bullets, flown at him this preseason. So Steelers win, Steelers cover, take the under. I'll say 23-13 Pittsburgh.
Vincent Pham says 24-9 Steelers. So right in that same ballpark. Ben, are you playing in that same ballpark when it comes to a prediction?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it kind of sets up everything we were kind of been talking about today. I tell you what, I like his prediction, 24 points. The Steelers scored 24 points in the week one. I'm starting to feel I might, start booking my tickets, looking for flights in February if that's going to be the case. But jokes aside,
let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's not get too excited, Ben. Come on.
See, it's what happens when we're on the last week till NFL football. You start getting crazy, man. I can't wait another 7 days. Luckily we have a Thursday night game, but I think exactly that low scoring game. I have the Steelers winning 20-13. I think it's your typical defense gets the proper splash play at the right time. I think they get an interception late that sort of sets the table for the Steelers, kind of extending that to maybe a 20-10 lead with, we'll say, 4.5 minutes to go, where they make it a 2-score game. The Jets might tack on a field goal, don't recover the onside kick. Steelers just salted away for the 20-13 win, where you think, well, it wasn't that bad. We got the win. The offense put that really good drive, that one drive together. If they could just do more of that, we'll be okay. But it's certainly a game where the defense sets the table for exactly what we mentioned. Justin Fields is the New York Jets quarterback. I just had to say that out loud. And you think about what we touched on earlier about how the training wheels on the offense, how they were setting up Justin Fields last year for what he can and cannot do. Well, they know what he can and cannot do, so I think they have an idea of what makes him uncomfortable and his tendencies. So I think that's going to bode well in our favor. And we've talked a lot about the Steelers and the new that they have. Think about the Jets as well. New head coach, a lot of new players, a lot of new faces in their facility as well. So, and I just trust that the Steelers are a lot more a better team and a better franchise to pull out the Week 1 win.
I'm praying Jaylen Warren has a great game. I'd love to see that running back room, in particular Jaylen Warren, just really explode. Maybe 1 or 2 20-plus yard runs would be great to see for that rushing attack, and give the offensive line confidence that they're creating the right gaps, the right holes, the right space. That's what I would love to see. Vincent Pham said 24-9. I'm saying 23-10, just so in case I'm right, that I can stick it to Vincent Pham, who's watching right now. I don't know who that is. I'm not familiar with the Vincent family, but I love and respect the Vincent family. I'm just going 23-10 Steelers. I don't know if the Jets will bring that much to the table. Maybe it's closer than we're talking right now, too. Maybe it's a 1-score game. I could see that happening, too. Maybe the offense explodes. I'd also love to see Aaron Rodgers just annihilate the Jets. I could see him just wanting to throw for 5 touchdown passes and 650 yards. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. Let's rest the arm. It's Week 1. But I think, Ben, to your point, I'm just a little bit excited for some Steelers football next week.
That's what it's all about, baby. I mean, that's what it comes down to. But I just, you just try to be realistic in this sense. And I think I do think it could be in that 1-score late game. Someone's going to have to make a play late, and I just rely on the Steelers doing that, and I rely on the Steelers defense being the unit to make that play. Does the defense get a touchdown in this one for the Steelers? What do we think?
I would not be surprised if we saw how about a pick six from one of our new shiny defensive backs, maybe Darius Slay takes one to the house. I mean, look, it's going to be about containing Justin Fields. Don't let him beat us with his legs. Make him be a pocket passer, which is not what he does well. So, yeah, I could absolutely see the defense coming up with a big pick six.
Is there any chance dare I say this, Justin Fields shreds the Steelers defensively and leads the Jets to a Week 1 win?
I think he could shred them with his legs. I don't think he can shred them with his arm. And that's a little bit of an interesting factor when you think about how the Steelers like to attack quarterbacks. It's almost a situation where do you tell TJ Watt, maybe you don't go off the edge with your hair on fire. Just make sure you keep him in the pocket, right? And don't let him get outside and make those plays with his legs or extend those plays to try and find a receiver. It's not exactly what we think of when we think of Steeler football. It's, rush the quarterback, make him hurry into mistakes, that kind of a thing. But for Justin Fields, he can extend plays and he can make things happen with his legs. So it's almost like you want to just not be quite as aggressive as you normally are, make him stay in an area where he isn't comfortable, and then have him try and beat you with his arm, which I don't think he can do. So it's a little bit of a different mindset maybe for the Steelers in this one, but as long as they don't let him get any huge plays to me with his legs, I think they'll be fine.
Jamal McCollum says Jalen Ramsey with the pick 6, and then he says
I'll take that.
What up, fellas, by the way. So obviously we love if you guys say hello first and then comment, but it's okay to do it in the reverse order. We appreciate that too. I could see, I think Justin Fields has something to play for too here in this game. If you're a competitor, especially at the pro level, and you're on a team and then you're no longer on that team and you face that old team, I feel like there's that inside, you're like, I don't really care. I want to crush this team. And Aaron Rodgers will be feeling that about the Jets. Justin Fields will be feeling that about the Steelers. I'm excited to see that kind of come together. And who knows? I just want to see the Steelers. I want to see the ones. We haven't seen this version of the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, new pieces defensively, but there's a lot of excitement around what the Steelers now have. Any final thoughts before we sign off? Enjoy the rest of this Sunday and enjoy the rest of this Labor Day weekend.
I mean, I'm, like I said, to start it off, excited, but so curious just to get it going and have some questions answered. Regardless of what those answers are, at least early on, it's hard to kind of really talk about what the Steelers have. We think we know based on what's happened in the past, but to finally see these guys in black and gold, getting it done, with this coaching staff, I'm so curious to see how it all works out. Not all the questions are going to be answered in Week 1, obviously, but at least we can start to kind of put the pieces together to see how this book is going to unfold for this NFL season. So just excited and curious to get some of those questions to start being answered coming up on Sunday.
It's like I'm at PNC Park watching the Pirates. I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind. I feel like that's what we're feeling about these Steelers right now as we go into Week 1. Benny, any last thoughts?
Yeah, when I think about Week 1 too, we talked a lot about. I think we're all on the same page. We think it's going to be an ugly game, and I think one of these players that we didn't mention, and I'm not sure why we would, but I do think a guy that could come up big in that Week 1 game is punter Corliss Waitman. This guy won the job for a reason. You think about an ugly game like this where we're getting the ball back to them. Field position could be a major factor. And if we're pinning the Jets inside the 20, continuously making Justin Fields go, say 80 plus yards, if you will, for a drive or a scoring, or at least for a touchdown drive, I think that could play a major factor in this game. So again, why would we bring up the punter in a show talking about Week 1? But I'm going to do it because special teams matter. That could be a major factor in these sort of games because we're talking about all the shiny toys and the defense and the splash plays, and we're excited. But Corliss Waitman won this punting job for a reason. Keep an eye on him being a factor in Week 1 potentially.
Ben, you're killing me. If the Steelers have to rely on their punter against the Jets in Week 1, we are in for a very long season. I hope to God that's not the case. All right, a reminder, you can always listen to the audio of today's show on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel, wherever and however you podcast. And be sure to throw us a thumbs up and subscribe. We'd appreciate that too. But that'll do it for this Sunday morning edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Eddie Garcia and Ben Bobick, thank you guys. This was fun. Little wake up, little coffee, little pancakes. Should do this again sometime soon. I'm Tyler Feldman saying good day, and here we go. Enjoy your Labor Day, and we'll see you again Wednesday night for some more Steelers talk.